Amelia the Haunted Doll. Lucy was 4 years old and lived with her parents and Erica, the nanny. Lucy's parents were doctors and spent most of their time working. Lucy was a very good and obedient girl. Erica loved her very much, almost like a sister. Lucy's parents were very pleased with Erica. She was responsible and very intelligent, always teaching Lucy things and, above all, teaching her Spanish. Lucy believed that Spanish was the language of secrets. Whenever she wanted to tell Erica something, she did it in Spanish so that those around her wouldn't understand. That summer, Lucy's grandmother went to Spain and brought back a doll for her granddaughter. Lucy was enchanted with the toy. She hugged it and said, "From now on, we'll be together," then looked at the doll and said in Spanish, "Amelia, what a beautiful name," and ran off to play with her new friend in her room. Lucy's grandmother and Erica were a bit surprised by Lucy's behavior. Where did she get that name? They didn't know anyone named Amelia, and they had never heard the name before. From that day on, Lucy and Amelia were inseparable, until strange events began to occur. One afternoon, Erica was taking Lucy to her favorite place, a park about 3 miles from home. Lucy loved walking barefoot, watching the birds, and playing with other kids. Suddenly, Lucy started crying inconsolably. Erica was alarmed because Lucy wasn't like that. If she was crying, something was wrong. Maybe she had a pain or didn't feel well. Erica stopped the vehicle immediately and went to the back seat to see what was wrong with Lucy. Lucy said they had to go back right away because Amelia was crying. Amelia was left alone and is crying. They had to return, or she would get very angry. Erica found this behavior very strange, but to please Lucy, she decided to go back and get Amelia. Once they picked her up, Lucy spoke to Amelia in her secret language. Erica tried to listen but couldn't understand what Lucy was saying. The curious thing was that it sounded like a normal conversation. It didn't seem like a child playing with her doll. Curious, Erica asked Lucy, "Is Amelia okay now? Is she not sad anymore?" Lucy replied, "No, she's still very angry. She says you left her. Apologize, or she will harm you." Erica was increasingly surprised by this behavior but decided to play along and apologize to the doll. This strange behavior worsened over time. Lucy only wanted to speak Spanish and spent long hours alone with the doll. The parents also noticed the odd behavior and decided to correct it by taking the doll away. Lucy started crying, begging them to return her friend, but the parents refused. Suddenly, they heard something running on the floor above, sounding like the footsteps of someone large and strong. Immediately, Lucy's face changed, and she began screaming with laughter, "The pull has begun, the pull has begun." Several paintings hanging on the wall fell to the floor. Like a possessed child, Lucy couldn't stop laughing and running around the room. Everyone was scared except for the father. He tried to explain everything with a more mundane explanation, like a simple coincidence, perhaps a vibration in the wall or plumbing causing the paintings to fall. The father took Lucy in his arms, spoke to her, and calmed her until she fell asleep. Erica was a bit unsettled by all this and went to her room. She tried to sleep for hours, and around 5 a.m., she felt something crawling on the floor of her room, but she ignored it and kept her eyes closed. Hours later, when she finally got up, there was Amelia sitting on the dresser. Erica was terrified when she saw the doll in her room. She knew Lucy's parents had left it in the garage. She tried to calm herself, saying maybe Lucy brought it and left it here. During breakfast, she asked Lucy if she had brought the doll to her room, but the girl denied it and ran off. In the afternoon, Erica decided to take Lucy to the park again to distract her. When Erica invited her, Lucy said, "Okay, but we have to wait for Amelia to wake up because she couldn't sleep all night." Erica tried to convince her to leave Amelia at home to rest, but Lucy responded with a firm no. "We have to wait, and before Erica could respond, Lucy said, "Amelia woke up. She says you spoke too loudly, and you woke her up." It was only when they got in the car that Lucy said, "Amelia says if you take the usual route, we'll have an accident." She continued playing casually with her doll as if she hadn't grasped the gravity of those words. Erica's blood ran cold. How could a 4-year-old say such a thing? She and Lucy's parents always made sure not to talk about adult things in front of the child. In a normal situation, she would have taken it as a senseless comment, but for some reason, those words seemed like a warning she shouldn't ignore. Erica wanted to cancel the plan, but Lucy insisted that Amelia wanted to go to the park. After debating it in her mind, Erica finally decided to go to the park but take an alternative route. When it was time to return home, Lucy conveyed another message from Amelia. "Let's take the usual route." But Amelia said we would have problems if we took the usual route. "No," she says, "it's already passed." Erica decided to follow the recommendation and took the usual route. To her unpleasant surprise, she encountered a tragic accident that had happened just minutes ago. Erica began to tremble, and a chill ran down her spine. When she looked in the rearview mirror, Lucy was peacefully asleep with Amelia in her arms. And for just a second, Amelia's face seemed to look at her mischievously, almost threateningly. Now, Erica was truly scared. It wasn't possible for a doll to change its expression. She tried to conceal her fear when she got home and started talking to Lucy, trying to investigate a bit more and find out if Amelia was really talking to her. "Does Amelia speak to you in Spanish or English?" "In Spanish, Amelia is Spanish." "Is Lucy and Amelia a girl or a woman?" "She's like a big girl because she never grew up." "And why didn't she grow up?" "She spat blood and died." After saying this, Lucy continued playing casually with Amelia. Erica was bewildered. Lucy spoke words in Spanish that she hadn't taught her, and her accent had changed drastically. Now she sounded like a Spanish accent. Lucy talked about things like death at her young age. She had no idea of the concept of death, and it was something that was not discussed in front of her. Erica didn't know what to believe, whether it was a product of suggestion or if there was something more sinister behind it all. For the first time, Erica felt uncomfortable having Lucy around. When the parents arrived, Erica excused herself and went to her room. When she managed to be alone with the parents, she told them what was happening. At first, there was some resistance from the parents to believe that those events were true. But they finally accepted that there were changes in the girl. The parents decided to get rid of the doll, but every time they separated Lucy from the doll, the girl became very ill. One night, it was already past 2 a.m., and Lucy couldn't sleep. The father came to try to control her because she kept screaming. Immediately upon seeing her father, she shouted, "Your mother is going to die tomorrow." At 10 o'clock in the morning, they received the sad news that Lucy's grandmother had passed away that same morning. She had suffered a stroke that had taken her life. That was Erica's last day in that house. Later, she learned that they had to bring in a priest who blessed the doll, and those events stopped. Years later, Erica was sitting in a cafe with a friend when a young girl entered the place. They recognized each other instantly. Despite the passing of the years, Lucy recognized and greeted in Spanish the one who had been her nanny. Lucy was now a young woman, an excellent student who wanted to be a Spanish teacher. Erica wanted to ask about Amelia but restrained herself. Better not. The blue suit. Leo is the man who works in maintenance in the building where I have my office. Leo is a very kind man and loves to talk to people. He comes from a town very close to the town where my parents were born, so he often comes to my office, and we have a little cup of coffee. We talk for a while about how things used to be. About his childhood in Cuba, how he had a great time with his friends playing and swimming in the river and doing other activities typical of children in those parts. Many times in the morning, he comments that he likes my suit or my tie, always having a word of praise for my clothes. One of those days, he mentioned that he needed a suit for a wedding. I would have gladly given him one of mine, as I have several that no longer fit me. However, Leo is much taller and more robust than me. So I told him that I couldn't give him one of my suits, but I would gladly give him a new tie to wear at the party. Leo mentioned that since it was clothing for a single occasion, he would rather go to a cheap store, a store they call Goodwill here. They sell second-hand clothes in good condition, sometimes even new, but they are clothes that people no longer fit, don't want, or belong to a deceased family member and were donated to these stores to be sold. Leo saw a blue suit that he fell in love with, and it matched perfectly with the tie I had given him. The suit was perfect for the occasion, and he only paid $20. Although the suit was clean and smelled very good, he took it immediately to the dry cleaner to have it washed and pressed. Leo picked up the suit the day before the wedding, after finishing work. That day he felt unusually tired and decided to go to bed early. Around 10 p.m., they were awakened by a strong smell of cigarettes, which alarmed Leo because he didn't smoke. The smell scared him, making him think there might be some kind of electrical issue. Then he thought it could be a small fire, so he checked the entire apartment to find the source of the smell but had no success. He turned off the air conditioning and opened the windows, hoping the smell would dissipate. He even knocked on the doors of his two neighbors, who were his friends, and asked if they had noticed the smell. But no one sensed anything peculiar. After a while, he decided to go back to bed, and at midnight, that cigarette smell filled the apartment again. Once again, he checked everything but couldn't find the source of the smell. The wedding took place the next day, and Leo told me he felt like a movie star in that suit. It made him feel distinguished, handsome, but he felt an inexplicable urge to smoke, even though he had never smoked in his life. He began to feel anxious, as if something were missing, even checking his pockets as if searching for something. One of his nephews came to greet him and praised how handsome he looked in his suit. He said he felt the need to ask his nephew for a cigarette because he knew his nephew smoked. Then he went to the bar and ordered whiskey, another unusual event because Leo never drank alcohol. That night he drank and smoked until he was satisfied. He ended up in such a bad state that they had to take him home. He also mentioned that he had a clear image of a tall man with piercing blue eyes and a cigarette in his mouth, standing at the foot of his bed, dressed in an identical suit. The man didn't speak, he just looked. Leo was scared and got out of bed just to see that figure vanish. He checked the entire apartment, made sure everything was closed, and that there was no one else in the house. The headache was unbearable, so he took some pills to get rid of it. He thought that maybe it was a vision caused by the alcohol still in his system. Another one of those desperate urges to smoke invaded him. It had no explanation. So he decided to ignore it all and go back to bed. The next morning, the smell of cigarettes didn't leave the house. As he passed by the suit hanging on the bathroom closet door, the smell of cigarettes hit him. Incredulously, he brought his nose to the garment and smelled the scent of cigarettes, as if hundreds of cigarettes had been smoked near that piece of clothing. But it was impossible, the party had been outdoors, and only a few cigarettes had been smoked. His head already hurt enough not to start thinking and trying to find an explanation for everything, so he decided to lie down again. He was sleepy but couldn't sleep, he just tossed and turned in bed, feeling anxious as if something were missing. The anxiety reached a point where he decided to go out for some fresh air. Outside the apartment, he ran into his neighbor, one of those women who thinks she's a security camera, spending the day behind the window watching what others do. The neighbor greeted him and asked who the man in his house was. "In my house?" There's no one in my house, only me. That's strange. I've seen several times through the window a tall man dressed in a blue suit and smoking inside your house. Impossible, there's no one. The neighbor looked at him suspiciously and went into her apartment looking offended. He had only walked a few steps when he met another neighbor. Quite a party you had last night. I thought you didn't drink. And who is that old man who was with you? The smell of cigarettes reaches my apartment. No, no one came with me, only my nephew, who came to drop me off because I had a bit too much to drink. With you, there was another man. In an identical suit to yours. It was the second person who commented on the man, and according to the description they gave him, it was the same man he had seen in his room. He didn't want to contradict the neighbors, so he went home to call his nephew. Hello, how did you wake up last night? You got quite drunk. Don't even mention it, my headache and discomfort won't go away. Speaking of that, did you bring me alone, or did someone else come with you to the house? No, I only brought you. Why? It's just that the neighbors are saying they saw another person with us, wearing a suit like mine. No, I don't remember seeing anyone else. Maybe these old people are just crazy. Leo didn't want to think more about the matter and spent the rest of the day calm. But that same night, in the early morning, he was again awakened by the smell of cigarettes and an inexplicable anxiety. He got up and opened the apartment window to see if that smell would go away. As he returned to the room, there he was again, standing with a cigarette in his mouth, admiring the suit, the man with blue eyes. Leo shouted, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" But the man didn't move. When Leo took a few steps to confront the man disappeared. The impression was such that Leo didn't sleep again all night. He was sure that something was happening with that suit. As soon as it dawned, he put the suit in a bag and went to the 7th floor where a lady he knew, who was a spiritualist, lived. They had been good friends for many years. The lady was surprised to see Leo so early. When she saw the bag, she said, "You can come in, but leave that thing outside. What's in that bag belongs to a deceased." That man was very connected to that garment. So much so that he was wearing it at the moment of his death. He doesn't want to harm you, he doesn't want to hurt you. He was a very good man in life, but he is very attached to that garment. That garment was made especially for him. He was a tall older man with very beautiful blue eyes, but he smoked a lot. I'm sure you felt the smell of cigarettes or even felt the need to smoke. Take that bag to a church and leave it there. Leo was left with his mouth open, as the lady told him everything that was happening before he spoke a word. The truth is, he never believed in those things, but he trusted his friend a lot. Without hesitation, Leo did as his friend indicated and got rid of the suit before returning home. His friend had prepared a perfume with some herbs to ward off any trace of that energy. After that day, Leo had no other paranormal encounters or any other kind of problem. But he made sure never to buy a garment without knowing its origin. And before finishing, I wanted to thank you for listening to these stories. If you liked them, leave us a like, and remember to subscribe. Thank you, and see you in the next one.